Hi, hello. So let's have a look on this article on the website of the FFVL. This is the French Federation for Free Flight, and I decided to go through it because it's pretty stunning, actually. Like they show the data, I was pretty surprised by the data they showed. So the title of this article is "Safety Parachute: Why to Use It," and the data that speaks basically for this. And they put here like an over title, like this is a French, like it rhymes basically in French. So après un tour, j'ai fait un secours, which means after one turn, I throw the reserve. Basically, this is something that it's that très safe. One of the guys they are mentioning because he was, practicing this in his mind. So after one turn, I throw the reserve. Maybe it's not so rhyming in English, but it's a very very basic and useful phrase to guide you while using the reserve, that I also strongly believe is correct. And but this is not the main point, actually. So they say that actually the first phase acapit here is is about actually the problem of like stunning in the flight, where people just stop to react, and it's often related to like using the safety parachute and the bad mental preparation for that, actually, in a critical, to use the safety parachute in a critical situation. And there is this data that they mentioned. So they say actually that between 2007 and 2024, which are 17 years, in this, over those 17 years, there were, I believe this is in France, people licensed by the FEVL. So basically, yeah. So there were 187 deadly accidents related to, or that happened to people who are licensed in the French Federation. And out of those 187, there were 103 that actually happened while flying. And among those 103, there were 33 actually that happened over the altitude of 50 meters. So basically where you can throw the rescue and you have good chance that it opens. But in those cases, the people actually, in those 33 cases, they didn't throw the reserve and died. And at the same time, they write there were 2,550 throws of the safety rescue, the rescue parachute, which I found is pretty like a stunning number. But the other number is still much more stunning, actually. So there's a throws like in the critical situation, and there was one single person who died under a fully opened reserve. Which I'm really surprised by, that this is so effective, like say rescue parachute. And actually, they conclude that this clearly shows that in most of the cases, throwing the rescue parachute will save the pilot's life. And of course, they also mentioned that the other conclusion is that the risk-reward ratio of using a safety parachute is clearly towards throwing the reserve. Yeah, and then just decomposing the number that we seen, those 53 people died because they didn't use, or maybe, I mean, while not using reserve, and still what happened to them started over the altitude where they could have used it. Now if you divide over the years, 17, then you get those 3 or 4 people per year actually dying in this kind of situation, where maybe they could have been saved by having thrown the reserve. So there is this actually indicates that there is important work to be done, so that people are mentally prepared to use the reserve. And this is actually what they say. So they say that they should be encourage people and prepare them mentally to use. And sensibiliser is like make them aware of the, let's say, the risks related to not using the rescue parachute. And here they have actually some more of those RETEX, return of experience. but they have they have highlighted here 3 cases. In the first case, actually, the guy they were training in his club, showing the reserves, and he was repeating to himself a lot this un tour je fais secours. Donc, basically what they say here, après un tour je fais secours. Donc, after one turn I throw the reserve, and they were doing this a lot. And also that on the day when he threw he did it, and then some 50 meters over the relief, like over the ground, he had like a collapse, and his reaction was not correct, and then he entered the spiral. So once he was in the spiral and he had the feeling that he cannot solve it, then he thrown the reserve, and this stopped the rotation immediately. And after a few seconds, he landed in the trees. Yeah, it's a perfect example. So this that actually demonstrates clearly that's important to be ready for this and know when is the moment to throw it. And this phrase again, après un tour je fais secours, is just perfect. So after one turn of rotation, once you lose control, you're in spiral, you throw a reserve. And the basic idea behind is that if you are well trained and you have good reflexes, you won't make it, I mean, not the dynamic turn, you won't make it turn so far. You will be able to stop it before it goes so far. And and if you're not able, it clearly demonstrates that you are behind the game, you're not trained enough, and now it's the time for a reserve. Yeah. And the second case here that describe is that the guy actually had like he was accelerated flight, and he had like a collapse again, and then a huge shoot after this, and me too. And then he turned a little bit, and but at the end he got himself in the stall, and the wing entered the parachute, which I believe the same in English. So basically, he was flying down there, and yeah, it was the deep stall basically on the wing, and this was the moment where he thrown the reserve, and it's just perfect. You are in a situation you're not controlling your wing, and in parachute you're going down pretty quickly. Yeah, and you throw the reserve, and you save your life. And this is actually what they also highlighted here. So they wrote the extraction of circuit. So immediately after losing control of the wing, like a stall or a parachutal or auto rotation, which is the same I think in English, and then a twist or spiral, yeah, like the other guy, you throw the reserve. It's perfect. And then the third guy, I mean, this is a bit special because it's Enzo 3, it's a CCC competition wing. So he was pretty low, and he got a massive collapse, and then he just threw the reserve without thinking too much, and he landed in trees. It didn't even touch the ground. And yeah, so just those examples that and actually here the summary, like if you are low, yeah, you just throw the reserve immediately, and it's pretty efficient. So basically those are the 3 cases they highlighted. I will put the link in the description, so if you like, you may just go and see the other, and you may use translation of Google or something to see it if you like. And yeah, and summing up, in France, I mean, it's not even in France. Among those guys who are licensed by this French Federation, and who actually got to tell them that it has happened to them. I mean, if someone dies, probably they know, but if someone throws the reserve, I'm not sure if they always know this, so I imagine these numbers would be still higher than that. There were actually, over those 17 years, there were like 33 accidents where people died, even though the accident started over 50 meters over the ground, but they didn't throw the reserve, which is something like 3 or 4 guys dying like this per year. which is way too much. And in the same time 2,500 over, and I believe much more because probably not everyone is telling them about this. Guys throwing the reserve and one person dying under a fully deployed reserve. So I hope this is pretty convincing to you that yeah, throwing reserve in case you lose control and you don't know what's going on, or you are low over ground. It's the way to go without thinking too much. And in order to do it properly in stress, you should always, you know, try put your hand while flying regularly on the handle, without of course throwing it, but just so that you can find the handle in the stress situation instinctively without thinking too much. This is one aspect, and the other is it's always useful to train throwing reserve on SIV. Because once you've thrown the reserve, I mean, there is also the correct way of throwing the reserve, correct direction, and correct way of using the handle, which sometimes is not obvious if you look on the videos on YouTube. So it's good to do it once, either on SIV, or you may also do it. Some guys are trying it differently, but just to know how it works. And yeah, and then once you thrown it, the other thing is that it's always good to disable the wing, and this also needs some practice, especially if you are flying like a Rogallo safety parachute, which is steerable, and you can actually get twisted under the Rogallo. And if you don't untwist, and in order to untwist, you have to disable your wing and actually gather your wing. And if you don't do this, then it's impossible to untwist. And if you don't untwist, then you're flying like, you know, like you may fly if you're untwisted in the wrong direction. You may fly like with your back to the front, and not control. No, you won't be able to control it. Maybe. The direction where you fly. So it needs some training, throwing a rescue parachute, and I strongly suggest that that you go to SIV and train it. And yeah, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. If you liked it, put a like. If you didn't, then put a dislike. And yeah, and see you watching another video. Well, I mean, it wasn't a video. See you discussing another important subject in paragliding safety soon, I hope. Bye.